That sounds like a contradiction, but stick with me here. Because after I installed this Hydrolink Pro Kit from SimNet, tuned the preload, and got everything just right, the SHB-100 that it was bolted to started to feel terrifyingly close to the hydro in my actual drift car. So what's the problem with that? Nothing in and of itself. But the rub is, this configuration that I'm on about costs right around $350. And that puts it in this weird sort of space where I want to recommend this Handbrake to everybody, but I'm not sure who's willing to shell out that kind of cash just for some added immersion. So instead of answering the question, is this Handbrake good? Spoiler alert, it's very good. I'm gonna try to answer, who is this Handbrake for? Kick the music, let's rock. What's up everybody in Internet Land? David Adams here with Inside Sim Racing. So SimNet sent over their SHB-100 along with their Hydrolink Pro Kit for a fair and honest review. And as always, there's no need to worry because as always, the views and opinions expressed here are my own and neither SimNet nor SimMotion have any editorial control over what I say about this product. So asterisk here. The main point of this video is to mostly look at the SimNet SHB-100 with the Hydrolink Pro Kit installed. But I did test it with the standard configuration first just so I can understand what the Hydrolink actually changes. And just so we're clear about the standard I'm using here, I've spent a lot of time with various sim handbrakes that are a lot less expensive than this unit as tested. And that includes the roughly $100 Moza HBP. I've also been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to use a real hydro in an actual drift car. So this video is going to be less about can the SHB-100 make a car go sideways, because a button on a keyboard can do that. What we're going to do is find out if that extra money you spent on the SHB-100 with the Hydrolink kit amounts to that immersive cherry on top, and if it's worth it to the right buyer. Now, before we bolt on the expensive bit and start talking about that, I need to give SimNet their kudos because this kit out of the box is stunning and insanely well built. As is from the factory, you're getting amazing value for money with this unit. For my fellow nerds out there, the SHB-100 has a 12-bit 100 kilogram load cell sensor. This ensures accurate braking pressure in your chosen simulator as opposed to treating the handbrake like some sort of on-off switch. The body combines 3mm stainless steel and machined aluminum for rigidity and stability that's next to none. The lever runs on free float bearings and is completely adjustable when using the optional extension kit. This whole kit feels properly dense and properly engineered. When it comes to positioning, you can mount this handbrake vertically or horizontally, change the lever position to suit your rig, and tune the resistance mechanically with the included spring and elastomer kit. Then, by jumping into SimNet software, you can adjust the usable range, dead zone, response curves, and filtering so the signal matches your exact setup. Fresh out of the box, this handbrake is buttery smooth, fully adjustable, and completely capable of doing the job. In fact, if this was the only version I tested, I'd call it a very solid load cell handbrake and move on with my life. But then you install this thing. All right, Dave, so what's with this whole Hydrolink Pro Kit thing? I'm glad you asked. The Hydro Kit replaces the standard resistance arrangement with a master and slave cylinder assembly, and it also incorporates a two-stage tuning stack. Now, in case you don't speak geek, the computer is still reading your force that you put against the handbrake, but instead of it being a set of springs and elastomers, your hand is now pulling through a real hydraulic mechanism. And that distinction is what matters. This isn't some magic performance sensor and doesn't unlock any new drifting techniques. And most importantly, it doesn't make the game understand all of your handbrake inputs differently. What changes is the shape, texture, and return of the pull. Now, I do have to say the Hydrolink Pro Kit gives you a frankly ridiculous tuning box. You get a wide array of 70A and 80A elastomers, 32, 54, 78, and 116 kilogram springs available in 2 separate lengths, and a set of shaped spacers so the stack can be built in any configuration you so choose. So you can run spring on spring, spring with elastomer, elastomer and elastomer. Then you can alternate the preload to see when the resistance raises, where it falls off, and how that pull return feels. And going into all the different configurations is a bit outside of the scope of this video, so don't worry about that. I'm not going to read them off like a menu in a restaurant. What's important for me to convey is that these settings and tunings are a lot less like horsepower upgrades and a lot more like suspension tuning. They don't necessarily change the job of the handbrake. What they do is change how that handbrake communicates. On a practical note, once you change the preload stack, follow SimNet's setup guide on their website for slave cylinder preload. This will ensure that the piston is seated correct. And something else to note, because of elastomer spring combinations can render this handbrake really stiff, you're going to want to mount this as something super rigid. And lastly, before moving on, but while we're on the note of practicality, once you go with the hydraulic setup, you can no longer mount this handbrake vertically or inverted. That master cylinder has to stay in the upright position. And this isn't isn't me recounting some horror story. This is actually from the horse's mouth on SimNet's website. And before you spend the money on this handbrake with the hydraulic kit, that might be worth noting because it might not fit with your current setup. Ah, yes, the tedious part. Dialing the handbrake in. This is where the review stops being about specs on a page and moves into the ethereal realm of tangible feedback. Now, initially my setup wasn't perfect. It was nice and it was impressive, but it wasn't what I was looking for. It really wasn't what I was wanting. So I messed with the preload and played with the resistance until the pull and return matched exactly what my arm was looking for. And I gotta be honest with you, once I got that dialed in, yeah, I found out this. This is exactly what makes the Hydrolink so special. You see, a cheap handbrake can often deliver a spongy pull with a springy return, and that works. It works like a handbrake, but it feels like you're using a video game control. With the Hydrolink Pro Kit bolted to the SHB-100, resistance builds deliberately and mechanically. There's a little bit of take-up, then a defined ramp in effort, and the lever comes back with that damped, controlled feeling that your brain associates with fluid moving through a system. Okay, so now at this point, this is where I have to caveat by saying this handbrake is not going to be able to simulate a hydro that you would see in every car. Different master cylinder sizing, lever ratios, caliper setup, line compliance, pad movement, all of that changes how the brake will feel. With that, this is the first handbrake in a sim that I've used. I said, yeah, this feels like my actual on-track car. And to me, that matters because I'm not just chasing a weighted handbrake pull. That's actually pretty easy. Springs and elastomers make it difficult to pull. You can make any handbrake miserable to use. What really impressed me was the way I was able to get the lever to communicate braking pressure as opposed to just fighting me on the return. Now, the downside of all this adjustment is pretty obvious, right? You can lose an entire evening just trying to tune the damn thing. So if you're like me and you change one spacer, do 5 runs, change an elastomer, do 5 more runs, adjust a spring, 5 more runs, you glance up from your sim rig, somehow it's 2 o'clock in the morning. If that's you, congratulations. SimNet knows exactly how to help you scratch that itch. Okay, but real quick, before we jump into the actual fun stuff, let's talk about the SimNet software and how you'll actually be setting your handbrake up. What you're gonna do is go to simnetracing.com, which is also where you saw the documentation for your handbrake. You're gonna scroll all the way to the bottom, not sure why they hide it from you. You're gonna click on downloads, and then you're gonna download the SimNet SimConnect Manager software. I'm just gonna save it to my desktop so it's not mixed in with all my set of Corsa mods. Open that up, we're gonna minimize you, and we're gonna extract this to the desktop. Once that's done, you're gonna run the setup. Now, I've already set this up, obviously, so it might prompt me to do a bunch of weird stuff, but go ahead and run it. Now, mine's gonna look a bit different than yours. It went away because I've already got my stuff configured. We're gonna go over here to click on the handbrake, and you'll see that you've got all sorts of things, but yeah, you can see I've got my dead zone dialed in and all kinds of cool stuff. I have a nice linear pull because that's how I feel, but basically all you're gonna do is click on calibration. You're gonna leave the handbrake alone. Next, it's gonna say, hey, pull the handbrake all the way back. This is where you want to set up the handbrake to your maximum effect. So if you don't want to have to pull all the way back on this thing every single time you want the handbrake to work, then what I would do is actually leave it alone and just pull gently. Just pull like you naturally would. Don't try to pull it like Hercules. Just give it a nice gentle pull. Boop. And that's all it is right there. My maximum reading is usually about 45%. That's fine by me. Next step, leave it alone again. You should see right here, it says it should show the output from the 0% input should come out 0%. Then you hit finish. And now you shouldn't even need the dead zones. And it's super easy, barely an inconvenience. It'll get you rocking straightforward. Now we get to go out on track. I didn't suddenly become a better driver because I installed the SHB-100 with the Hydrolink Pro Kit. It didn't unlock entries I couldn't do before, and it didn't make the car rotate more. In fact, my old Moza handbrake never actually made me feel like I was missing anything. And a basic handbrake can still send the exact same usable input to the sim. What the SimNet gives me is refinement. The lever is smoother, the structure feels more substantial, and the adjustment range is on another level. Most importantly, the physical feedback feels believable enough that I stop thinking about the handbrake and just use it. But I need to be careful because premium sim hardware loves to borrow from the language of performance. That's a real benefit. And while that benefit won't make you a better drifter or faster in rally, what it will do is lead to you being more consistent and more confident. And that's regardless of whether you're on dirt heading towards a sharp hairpin or on tarmac heading towards a fast sweeper. With all that out of the way, we meander nicely into the uncomfortable part, value. Now, credit where credit's due, the SHB-100 starts out as an incredible, reasonably priced handbrake. In fact, over on SimMotion's website,
link in the description down below,
you can get this handbrake right around $130 US. It's when you start to add on the Hydrolink Pro Kit and the accessories that we used during this testing, those accessories being the extension lever and the soft touch handle, that you start to push this investment up to around $330 US. Now, prices for individual items and bundles do vary from month to month, so be sure to check out that link in the description down below that like and subscribe button for the latest prices from SimMotion's website. Now, with all that out of the way, I do still have to say that $330 is a lot of money for a singular control on your sim rig. There are plenty of inexpensive handbrakes on the SimMotion website that will fit the need just fine. Even other hydraulic options as well. You'll get the same core components, that's pull the handbrake, lock the rear wheels, or slow those rear wheels down. What you will be missing, however, is that high quality construction, that 3mm stainless steel, that machined aluminum, and that high quality, dense, dependable, durable feeling that you get when you mount this handbrake to your rig. So is the SimNet Hydro handbrake worth $330? At the risk of sounding like I'm giving a cop-out answer, I have to say it's going to depend on who's asking. You don't need a Ferrari to get milk from the grocery store, and you don't need a Rolex to tell time. A RAV4 and a Casio will do the job perfectly fine. This life debate is exactly where the SimNet SHB-100 with Hydrolink Pro Kit lives. And when it all boils down, what you have to look at is the fact that that first $100 gets you a ultra dependable, ultra reliable, ultra consistent handbrake that will deliver precise readings into your sim the first time and every time thereafter. That other $230 is the very expensive icing on the cake. The insane build quality, the over-the-top haptic feeling that you get when you pull that lever. And I'm gonna say it here, perfection of it all. So, final verdict. Is the SimNet SHB-100 with Hydrolink Pro Kit the nicest handbrake I've ever used? This thing is rock solid and highly adjustable on its own, and the Hydro Kit takes an already amazing product and transforms it into something genuinely special. Like I said in the beginning, this is the first time a bit of SimKit was able to perfectly replicate how my on-track car feels. Now, would I recommend this handbrake to most sim drifters and rally drivers? That's a strong probably not. No, wait. That's not because this product underperforms or underwhelms or is anything less than near perfection brilliance. Not at all. It simply boils down to, as I said previously, you can get the same core functionality from any handbrake on the market for a lot less money. If you're building a no-compromise dream rig or a training rig to mirror a real-life drift or rally car, then this handbrake is the tool for you, and I can completely understand why you'd feel you need it. Let's go ahead and take a look at how the pricing breaks down. At the time of recording, SimMotion lists the SHB-100 for $129.99. The accessories that are added, the soft grip and the extension levers, add $9.99 and $19.99 respectively. Where you're spending the remaining cash is on the Hydro Kit upgrade. That stings the wallet with an eye-watering price tag of $158 US. Yeah, you're right, that's more than the handbrake and the lever extension kit combined, effectively doubling the cost of the kit without hydraulics. So here's the tea, my drift kings and queens. If you just need a reliable handbrake, you can do just as well if you buy something less expensive. I'm not gonna sell this product to you. And I feel it bears repeating, and I will say this until I'm blue in the face, you will not be missing out on anything. Again, the SHB-100 with the Hydrolink Pro Kit isn't gonna unlock some hidden latent capability in your body or in your gear. It simply perfects that interaction between you and the vehicle on screen. And whether or not that perfection is worth roughly $330 depends entirely on how much that interaction matters to you. And that's about it. That's my review of the SHB-100 with the Hydrolink Pro Kit. Hopefully it was an entertaining one for you. I tell you what, let me know down in the comments below, what handbrake are you using on your sim setup today? And do you feel like this level of realism is worth the asking price? Let us know down in the comments section below. Once again, my name is Dave Adams with Inside Sim Racing, and I'll see you in the next one.